recently given the opportunity to spend a limited amount of time with an unfinished version of Rise of the Tomb Raider, and we've returned with some direct feed footage and our observations. Rise of the Tomb Raider is an interesting project for Crystal Dynamics. After securing a timed exclusivity deal with Microsoft, the Xbox One stands as the lead platform driving development of the game. The situation is not unlike that of 2008's Tomb Raider Underworld, in which Crystal Dynamics focused all of its resources on the creation of the Xbox 360 version, leaving other studios to handle various ports. With Crystal Dynamics able to focus entirely on the Xbox One version of Tomb Raider then, we're expecting something a bit more polished than your typical multi-platform game. Yes, the game engine is designed to work across multiple platforms, but limiting optimization to a single console should theoretically alleviate some of the challenges typically faced during late development. The latest demo focuses on the infiltration of a Soviet installation hub and its surrounding areas. We begin atop a small perch located just next to a campfire with a nice view of the installation below. Let's start with the basics. Crystal Dynamics is promising a full 1080p presentation at 30 frames per second, but we noticed a few oddities that left us wondering if they're using a more dynamic solution instead. That said, we won't pass judgment here just yet, since the game is still in development, but we're going to keep an eye on this aspect in the final product. Anisotropic filtering is also used, but only at a moderate level, resulting in some blurry textures here and there, while post-process anti-aliasing is used to clean up the image. Unfortunately, copious amounts of subpixel breakup and shimmering are visible throughout the demo, leaving us less than impressed. This time around, Lara herself appears to have been a primary focus for the development team. Positioning ourselves just next to a rock face enables a closer examination of her character model. The latest iteration of TressFX is employed here, enabling more realistic hair movement, though without the PC version, it's a bit difficult to determine just how much of a performance penalty this actually incurs. Snow also appears to collect on Lara's hair and clothing, resulting in a more realistic presentation. As with the definitive edition, a simple physics model was applied to Lara's tools, enabling them to bob around realistically as she runs. Now let's go ahead and jump onto the zip line and continue on down. This is when you'll start to notice a comprehensive motion blur effect used throughout the game. The velocity-based solution applied here is used with both objects and camera motion alike, helping to increase the fluidity of the game. Now that we're starting to get into a little action, let's go ahead and switch on the frame rate analysis tool. The vast majority of the demo turns in what you're seeing here, a solid 30 frames per second. When combined with the motion blur, it looks pretty smooth most of the time. We'll go ahead and leave the frame rate tool enabled for now, but let's go ahead and push forward a bit. One of the nice touches we noticed throughout the demo is the use of reflections. Now, during general gameplay, the type of reflection being used here produces pretty nice results that work very well with the puddles of water throughout this area. But if you look a bit more closely, you'll notice a few discrepancies. Take these supply boxes, for instance. They're not reflected at all. Anyway, let's push on. Climbing up this structure here, we see plumes of smoke filling the arena just ahead. While this is certainly bad news for Lara, it's not really good news for the players either, as we start to encounter a few performance issues here. This particular scene seems to struggle to maintain 30 frames per second, with torn frames being introduced along the top portion of the image. Let's see how it plays out.
Haven't heard any shots for a few minutes now. I think we're...
Heads up! Incoming! She's there! Open fire!
What's curious is that, just a few moments later, the performance drops clear up and we're back to a stable 30 frames per second. Was it the full view of the scene causing an issue? Perhaps the fire and smoke? Or is it just a pre-release lack of optimization? We certainly can't say for sure just yet, but it's something we plan to keep an eye on in the final game. Alright then, let's move on. There are a few additional details that caught our eye. Let's go ahead and slow it down for a moment, shall we? First thing to note are the reflection artifacts that crop up in certain scenes. Look around this enemy's character model, for instance. Yeah, it's not great. Yikes, poor guy. Also take note of the specular highlights here along the wall. It really gives the impression of an icy surface reacting realistically with light sources. Alright, let's speed this back up. As we push forward here, take note of another subtle effect that we quite like. Depth of field used around the corners of the image. It's a bit of a vignette effect achieved using depth of field blur, and it looks pretty good. Continuing our ascent, you'll notice plenty of shimmering here around the edges. It's an artifact that continues to pop up throughout the demo, unfortunately, and can mar an otherwise decent image. Once up on top, we get to enjoy another trip down a zip line, this time with the sun peeking through pillars of smoke along with particles of snow whipping around the scene. It looks great. Down here we also see the fire mechanics return from the last game, with Lara able to throw things like this torch lamp here into a pile of debris in order to clear her path. Alright, let's turn the frame rate counter back on for the rest of the video while we move through a few more action-packed scenes. The rest of the demo actually manages to do a better job holding 30 frames per second than the one earlier sequence. This room actually shows off a few additional effects worth mentioning. If you look about, you'll notice patches of volumetric fog and lighting throughout the scene, an effect that actually makes use of asynchronous compute. In addition, ambient occlusion is handled by a custom solution known as Broad Temporal Ambient Obscurance, which provides quality rivaling that of HBAO with a lower performance cost. Also, this explosion used here to exit the facility, it could have been handled a bit better. We go from a solid brick wall to a destroyed one within a single frame. The effect looks kinda cheap. That said, the elongated shadows in this scene are a nice touch, as are the particles flying around after that last explosion. Okay, as we make our way back outside, we should also mention the snow deformation, which seems to vary based on the depth of the snow. Here it's a bit more shallow, but overall it's an impressive effect, making use of compute shaders and hardware tessellation to achieve the desired look. Okay, so perhaps we've been a bit picky here, but really the game is still shaping up to be something rather special. The Soviet hub in this demo is perhaps visually dull, but many of the other areas seen previously are far more impressive. The demonstration we were given at Gamescom, for instance, showcased a much more visually striking environment with some impressive effects work and lots of destruction. It's really only because of this earlier demonstration that this latest section feels a bit underwhelming. At least it's exciting to see a wider range of areas to explore in the new game. The previous game was focused entirely on a single island, but Rise of the Tomb Raider clearly goes much further than that. Okay, that's all for now. If you enjoyed this video and are looking for similar content, feel free to subscribe. Until next time, take care.
Someone's out there.
Intruder! Here. Let's go! Ah! He's dead! Let's finish this.